Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. We have a lot of news to dive into, and it is very rapidly developing, so I don't want to spend a ton of time futzing around with an introduction. There is an ongoing invasion into the Spanish territories of Ceuta, C-E-U-T-A, and Melilla. They are north of Morocco. They border the Moroccan territory in northern Africa. For those who are on the radio side of things, you can't see the map, but we have a map prepared here for you over on the live stream and the TV side. Of course, Ceuta is right next to the Strait of Gibraltar, the entry point from the Atlantic Ocean into the Mediterranean, and Melilla is closer to the border of Algeria. These are Spanish territories. As of right now, Spain's civil guard chief has declared the border totally collapsed between Ceuta and Morocco as thousands of military-aged men, not packs of desperate women and children, not the elderly, military-aged men who appear to be from ages 16 to 18 all the way up to about 45, are streaming over the border into the country and are, as of right now, invading people's homes in Spanish territory. So the initial news breaking today, some of this footage is, of course, shared to us over by Bill Malugin at Fox News. I do want to point out that though the chyron on the screen of this reads northern Spain, it's Spanish territory in northern Africa. Here you go.
Really wild video here. Chaos at the border of Spain's North African enclave in Morocco. This is a city called Ceuta. You're watching as thousands of migrants break through the fence and completely overwhelm the border police. Their video showing huge groups of people, mostly young military-age guys, cramming in.
Where are all the women and children?
Into inflatable tubes or arriving on shore another way, some of them waiting in the water.
You'll see boats like this later with the current ongoing invasion of the United Kingdom as well,
as they break through the gates to get to the other side. Sandra, this is reminiscent of kind of what we saw during the open border during the Biden administration.
We'll get to that. Don't get ahead of me, Fox. So I want to dive into some of these details because they have already changed quite considerably since that video was uploaded today and released over on the Fox News side of things, by which I mean when I said that they are invading and breaking into Spanish citizens' homes right now, and you can guess what they're doing once they get inside there, I'm sure. Here you go. There are currently groups of adult men who are in Ceuta and Melilla that are breaking into people's homes and are doing God knows what to the individuals on the inside. If you have a moment, pray for those who live in Ceuta and Melilla. Which, by the way, in one of the first times that I have ever seen this, there was a combined party statement. So from the furthest left-wing party over to the furthest right-wing party in Ceuta, all of the Ceuta political parties, left to right, joined together today, this morning, to demand help and that the army be sent in immediately. Here was, and this is in Spanish, but all of the political parties assembled together. And again, you can see that it's not just white Spaniards. It is also those who have immigrated, who are of North African heritage. Many of those who are Muslim standing up there as well and demanding, begging from all, again, from the furthest left to the furthest right, are begging the Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, again, very, very, very left-wing, to send in the army because all of the police is completely overwhelmed. And, I'll have to kind of go in a particular order here, but Ceuta's president requested a total national emergency earlier today because every single police officer, whether on duty, not scheduled to be on duty, and reserve, had been called up and were completely overwhelmed. And by the way, when I said houses being broken into, the migrants, the military-aged Islamic men from northern Africa, are grabbing ladders and are hoisting themselves up into any window that doesn't appear to be barred and fastened, and are trying to break into the homes of anyone inside Ceuta. Now, when some of these individuals have been interviewed and asked why it is that they are surging in, because you've heard all of the arguments from, for example, the libertarians and the left-wing individuals that they're just seeking economic opportunity and just a better life, just really nice, wonderful stuff. When you actually ask the migrants why it is that they are streaming in, here's one individual
Ali, ¿por qué no te quedas
telling a reporter, hey, you stayed in Morocco. Why did you decide to come from Morocco to Spain? And the guy says, I came to Spain because I want to change my life. I have problems in Morocco. I don't want to go back to Morocco. Now, there are a lot of people we're going to get to, all the way from Pramila Jayapal in the United States, who's already in Congress, to, again, Zoran Mamdani of New York, to Abdul El Sayed running in the Michigan primary against Haley Stevens on the Democrat side of the aisle. These individuals say that what he said right here is enough. He wants a new life. Things are problematic in Morocco. It's the same thing that you'll hear from Republican Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, who says the reason he's outraged that the temporary protected status of Haitians has ended and that now Haitians are being told to leave, whose temporary protected status was in fact temporary. You can't send them back to Haiti. A lot of those Haitians have problems in Haiti. Apparently, Haiti is a hellhole. Now, I was told reliably by Conan O'Brien and others taking photos of themselves on the beach that Haiti was a magical place of wonder and charm and delight, as are all of these nations. But this guy says he has problems in Morocco. The reporter asks, what kind of problems do you have in Morocco, sir? He says, people, if a friend of mine dies, someone might get in trouble just for saying things that aren't good. For me, a person could die. Either me or the other person could be in trouble. That's why I came. Because if he wants to commit murder, and he thinks that in Morocco that they might catch him. He also continues on the ways he's looking for work. Says, I have a good job. He says, I work at the beach. And they ask him a little bit further and kind of clarify, wait, are you saying that you are under investigation potentially for murder in Morocco? And he confirms it and says, yeah. I mean, just the most delightful of bunches. When I said the cops were overwhelmed, I'm not joking. Here's a clip of that. You can see that the police in the Spanish territory are completely overwhelmed. Now, Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister of Spain, finally, he got up in front of the country and said, the government of Spain, translating, of course, is fully committed to providing an immediate response to the situation in Ceuta. And then again, of course, later, Melilla. We are mobilizing all necessary resources, working with Moroccan and international authorities, and preparing the necessary measures to restore normalcy as soon as possible. And I just conveyed this to President Juan Vivas Lara. That's the president of Ceuta. He said, this is the moment to build solutions with responsibility and cooperation. Now, I don't normally include this when I share the screenshots of public statements that are often made on X, but I did include the numbers at the bottom of this message to show how horrifically this man was ratioed. The ratio is when there are more replies to a tweet than the likes on the tweet itself, or if the top comment has more likes than the tweet itself, that's considered a ratio. This man had 41,000 comments on this tweet to 26,000 likes on this particular tweet. And here's why. This man, who is claiming that he's doing everything to solve this problem, was just granting legal status to 500,000, as Politico called them, unauthorized immigrants. Anyway, illegal migrants streaming across the border and arriving in boats, etc. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, this article is back from April of 26, defends the decision in light of the country's aging population and the need to keep public services fully staffed. Oh, see, the economy demands it. The economy demands we let in all of these military-aged men. And again, with whose Islamic practices results in much higher violence, whose cultures are not compatible. Again, do not take this from just me. Take this from the left-wing politicians in Ceuta, who have said that the brand of Islam that is brought in from Morocco and surrounding North African regions is deeply incompatible because it is violent, because it molests women, and because it carries the same type of honor culture evil that has been prevalent throughout Europe and that which has been imported to Western civilization as a whole. Radio Crew, I have to send you to the commercial break. We have a lot more news to cover on this. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, in the meantime, and there's a lot more fact-checking that we can bring up here. Pedro Sanchez was criticizing Elon Musk just in January this year. Elon Musk made the case, again, the American billionaire currently, not trillionaire anymore, but the billionaire who criticized the open migrant, open borders policies of countries like Spain, who, as you may recall, was just strutting around the UN, tutting the United States for its treatment of Muslims in the Middle East or something. And those dirty, damned Israelis or just whatever kind of conspiracy theory nonsense that he believes. Elon Musk was criticizing Pedro Sanchez for this. And Pedro responded that Elon Musk was very close-minded. How could he say this about migrants? What you really need is compassion. Look at this picture of a crying child. For just $1 a day and the rape of your children. You too could be compassionate enough to let this 25-year-old man into your country who's likely going to do very terrible things, who's running from murder charges in other countries. So again, here was the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, responding to, again, the criticism of Spain's open migrant policies back in January.
Some say we've gone too far, that we're going against the current. But I would like to ask you, when did recognizing rights become something radical? When did empathy become something exceptional? Spain is above all a welcoming country, and this is the path we choose: dignity, community, and justice.
Yeah, just compassion. Again, it is compassion for everyone but the citizens of his own country. And this is something that needs to be made very clear, because again, there's been a lot of angst in the ex-evangelical part of the Protestant church. Those that, for example, a lot of the churches that fly pride flags that say, guys, Jesus is like all about compassion and letting everyone in. And then again, some parts of the Catholic Church would do the same thing and say, everyone, my robes are very fancy and you must let in everyone because that's compassion. No, as a government, your responsibility is to your citizens first. And then after the needs of your citizens are met, you can then go about helping the rest of the world if you have stuff left over. But at the moment, what you are seeing are disastrous consequences. And again, is there any idea that you believe that the Spanish military is going to go in and stop the influx, the invasion of these young Muslim men, these military-aged men from North Africa? Absolutely not. As the army vehicles are seen rolling down the highways in order to make it to the issue area in Ceuta, the migrants are just walking by the vehicles laughing and mocking them. So as the vehicles are driving by, the migrants, now freshly invaded, strolling right on past. And they're mocking. They're going, bravo, España. And they're mocking it. And throwing up gestures that are rather obscene as well. Because they don't care. They're here to reap the rewards that very soft-bellied, suburban, divorced women have decided in this post-liberal, wonderful era is appropriate. We have to, guys, think about the children and the people, that kind of argument. Now, there are some explosions reported. We're not quite sure what they entail, but there is smoke seen in Ceuta. Now, there is a question as to whether there was a controlled demolition near the border to, make it impassable temporarily. That's not confirmed at the present time. We do know, however, that as of 6:33 p.m., so just under an hour ago, this Thursday, July 30th, they're still crossing the border, right now. Invasion is still going on. Not just this clip, but this clip. They're still going. Still going. Unfettered. No one's stopping them. Why? This is the policy that you've reaped. This is what you have elected. And again, more. Now, there are some police officers, and you can see in this clip, even after the officers have arrived, they're just walking right on past them. Right on past them. Radio crew, welcome back from the commercial break. All right, let's dive into the last little piece of news, we have reports of car fires as well in Melilla. We're keeping an eye on this. Again, individuals are breaking into houses. We're keeping an eye on as many situations as we can regarding this invasion into two places inside of Spanish territory in northern Africa. This would be the video of which there are migrants who are live on social media. And you can see all of the comments from people very, very excited and loving it. The migrants are setting car fires. They're just doing all of the burning and the pillaging right away, as, you know, Islamic colonialism usually does. Now, I do want to bring up another key point here before we move on from this particular story for the moment here. Pedro Sanchez has made it perfectly clear earlier this year as well that this is all part, he said, we need to activate the reparation mechanisms more intensely in irregular migration. What does that mean? It means that Pedro Sanchez has made it clear that he thinks Spain is responsible, and Spain alone, along with, well, I shouldn't say alone, along with the rest of Western Europe, for brutalizing all of Africa. And it is because of Spain that Morocco is not a surging, wonderful, glorious first world country. And it is because of Spain that Algeria doesn't have all of the skyscrapers and economic business and all of the cathedrals. Well, I mean, Islam kind of burnt down a lot of the cathedrals in Spain, and is still trying to do so. But he says, well, this inviting in all of these migrants and just, you know, bringing them all in at a time, that's part of their reparations to the rest of the world, so to speak. Now, there has been one statement going around that I do have to issue a little bit of a clarification on. There were reports today that yesterday, Mohammed VI of Morocco granted a pardon to over 2,000 prisoners. And then those 2,000 prisoners then immediately were released to then go into Spain and France and the UK. That's not quite true. The Moroccan Justice Ministry did confirm a throne day pardon for 1,788 people. However, they weren't full pardons particularly. They were 1,679 of them received sentence reductions and are still in prison as of right now. Only 9 of these men got complete full pardons. And that's not making excuses for anyone. That's just being very clear and direct about the facts that are on the ground. So right now, and from the 2023 to 2024 peak of the illegal migration into Spain, 46,800 people in 2024, 32,000 in 2025, and then so far in 2026, about 15,000, and we believe so far about 4,000 to 5,000 that have flooded into Spain. It could be up to 10 to 12,000. There are some different numbers on this. Now, the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, who sometimes has a spine, she also has come forward to say the images coming from Ceuta are striking and demonstrate. They're striking and they demonstrate, once again, not demonstrative, they demonstrate, once again, that uncontrolled illegal immigration poses a concrete threat to the security of Europe's borders, which is true. I have spoken with Interior Minister Matteo. Italy will not stand by and watch. We are convening the relevant bodies and following these meetings. We are prepared to intervene with extraordinary measures to defend the borders and safety of citizens, including the suspension of the Schengen area with Spain. So she says that she won't yield an inch on illegal immigration, but then also won't actually follow through and take a tough stand on issues like Cyprus in the Mediterranean or allowing NATO allies to use certain bases. It's kind of give or take with Meloni. Now, Western Lensman over on social media sent us this clip, and I think that it's rather apropos to share. You heard this referenced in the Fox News clip at the beginning of the show. Just one administration ago, you saw under Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas in the Biden administration the same kinds of mass migration into the country.
That the challenges at the border are very complex and dynamic.
All right, well, I'm going to take from that if you can't answer yes, then the answer is no.
That is not true.
All right, so then you're saying all 9 are secure.
It is my testimony that the border is secure, and we are working every day, day and night, to increase its security.
And by the way, there was a huge scandal of sorts at the beginning of this week. arguing that the Trump administration was doing a horrible, evil thing by continuing the construction of the border wall, which is a lot taller than the chain link fences from, Morocco into Ceuta. Now, this is not only relegated to Spain, but also to the migrant invasion of the United Kingdom, which is, again, ongoing. So as a reminder, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was also roasted by media here, there, and everywhere. Why? Because he said that migrants were invading the UK and were committing acts of murder. Here was the president yesterday saying accurately, especially as we see now today.
Minister Andy Burnham hasn't mentioned publicly migration at all since he's gone into number 10. Did you discuss it with him?
I did, briefly. He's going to have to mention it because it's killing your country.
Mr. President,
killing you.
He won't talk to GB News.
He's killing your country.
He won't talk to us.
And not him. I mean, we'll have to see. I know Starmer did very little about it. And they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Africa. They're coming from South America. They're coming from different parts of Asia. And they're invading Europe. I mean, they're invading Europe. It's an invasion. And the UK is a prime suspect.
So the president of the United States is absolutely correct here. And it is as bizarre as it is. And I don't really want to get into the full analysis section of the show, but very briefly here, if you will allow me and forgive me. Donald Trump right now is not having the most resounding, super duper parades in the streets, momentum filled celebratory presidency of all time that many perhaps expected. And he made a lot of promises. However, despite the lack of momentum, and by the way, a lot of that's due to a Republican Congress that has been largely ineffective as a governing body. However, and then federal courts, and we'll get to the judicial a little bit later in the show. However, when the president of the United States says things like this, or says things about Fauci, or says things about the Biden administration, or says things about fraud, waste, and abuse, or says things about Iran, and the response to this by the Democrat Party is to go insane and argue in favor of the mass migration and insanity that we're seeing today in Spain, not 24 hours after the man made that statement, it confirms to the minds of Americans that Trump, as the coroner, did in fact issue correctly his death certificate of this soft-handed politics that dominated the 2010s. That has been ineffective, that has resulted in unsafe environments, in the murder of countless individuals. And when he then follows it up today, as we'll get to a little bit later, with a banger of a policy on a program for veterans in order to undercut the mass import of immigrants who can't speak English to drive semi-trucks in the United States, and instead to benefit veterans as a forward-facing policy. No one is going to talk about it today. Seriously, very few are going to spend the time covering this, and it is a damn shame. Because some of the things that are being effectuated here in this administration are some of the most effective policies that we have seen in decades. Why? Because seriously, the man is just doing things. And there's a little bit more to that with acting Attorney General Todd Blanche here in just a bit. But again, I talked about the United Kingdom. We need to get into this. French Navy helicopters have now been spotted assisting migrants leaving French beaches for the United Kingdom.
But for us...
Hold on just a second here. I have this particular footage. I don't want the James Tallarico clip. I want to show this. Nighttime in the UK, as helicopters have been spotted attempting to assist individuals over in... There you go. Northern France. Assisting migrants leaving France to the United Kingdom.
Why are they allowing this to happen?
Now, let's move forward a little bit. So the framing of this individual, Shadow Home Secretary, but he's in Chris Philip, asked French police why the French are allowing individuals to move through France and then sail towards the United Kingdom, which, by the way, in traditional terms of international law, which no one seems to care about anymore, that is considered an act of war, just for the record. But alas, we have to send the radio crew over to commercial before the FCC shoots me in the kneecaps. We're going to play this clip on the live stream in the meantime. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right, while the radio crew is away, here is Chris Philip, this clip from GB News, asking the French police about why they're just allowing boat after boat after boat of military-aged men from North Africa and the Middle East to just sail on towards the United Kingdom shores.
Je suis un député dans le Parlement du Royaume-Uni. Why have you allowed the migrants into the water? Why haven't you stopped them?
They're like, well, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I do not know.
Our order
Yeah.
is to let them go like that.
Your order is to let them go.
We just have to say to them, don't do that, it's dangerous.
Yes. Have you tried putting up a sign in Chicago that says no guns allowed? Have you just say, oh no, be careful if you get in the boat and the boat goes tipsy-topsies and it will be dangerous, you know. And by the way, that's a nasty, sick thing to do. That is a horrible thing to do because we are finding the bodies of these individuals. So far, I believe 10 were recovered today alone in the English Channel of people just not making it. It's insane. Now, the Home Office under, again, new Prime Minister Andy Burnham, he stepped up, Keir Starmer 2.0. He directed the Home Office in the United Kingdom, their Department of Homeland Security for the UK, to release a statement just denying that all of this is happening. And again, I've included the numbers here because they were ratioed to hell and gone. Quote, we are aware of posts circulating online that claim French law enforcement are failing to prevent small boat channel crossings. UK-French cooperation has already stopped over 46,000 attempted crossings since the election. There just happens to be no video of this whatsoever. Oh, we've 46,000 boats. I mean, it's like Dunkirk all over again. Only it's not happening. Do you know what? Because I have grainy Bigfoot footage of all of the migrant boats that are getting through. Do you know how many videos I have of the UK authorities or the French authorities stopping the boats? Zero, none. And again, in this age of body cameras, you think that they would release this particular footage. No, not at all. In May alone, 65% of all small boat events was stopped, despite soaring temperatures, which have historically led to increased crossings. Piss off. Piss off. Oh, it's the climate. It's global warming. Yes, of course. There's this guy in Morocco, and he's like, oh man, it's so hot. Let's go to the UK and France, where they have never heard of air conditioners. Oh, yes, that's what it is. By the way, when you interview them and you're like, hey, why did you come here? Do you know how many people tell them, oh, the weather is so hot down in Africa. It's so hot. I thought I must get to some shade. And so I decided that London, the sun never shines in Londonistan. No one says that. That's not a thing. When all of these like libertarian and liberal organizations and the NGOs say, we think that people think it's like really it's like really hot in Africa and crops won't grow there. When you ask them, hey, why did you come here? Like, I'm investigated for murder. It's not, oh, the sun is hot and I just don't have SPF that's strong enough. So anyway, the UK's but we know there is more to do. This is why the Home Secretary has signed a landmark new payment by results deal with France to boost enforcement actions on beaches and put people smugglers behind bars. Again, the French police are just being told to let them go. And also, oh, we're totally removing and deporting a bunch of people. Again, the source, dude, trust me. Here you go. Look. Oh, wow. It's the UK authorities. And then also all of these bands of, I'm not joking, like these old chubby liberal ladies in purple shirts. That is, by the way, exactly what they look like. I'm not exaggerating or trying to be dramatic here. That are just helping them and giving them food. Oh dear, do you need somewhere to go? Well, you can't stay with her, but I'm sure there's, a city street for you to sit on and follow young girls around at. So, radio crew, welcome back from the commercial break. Let's move over to the United States, because in the United States, there is a lot of chaos that is attempting to take this exact crisis and bring it here. One of the primary reasons that Donald Trump was elected here in the United States was because of the crisis under the Biden administration. And various places all over the country in which blue states said you can have sanctuary right here. And now you have individuals like, for example, Pramila Jayapal, who are going all in with Abdul El Sayed, again, running up in Michigan, to say we need to get rid of immigration enforcement forever. No immigration enforcement. You get to stay here. You get to do whatever it is that you want. And also, you're probably the most prosperous member of our society that's ever been. Oh, I see exactly what happened. I put 2 clip 18s. That's my fault. Here you go.
What ICE and CBP are doing across the country, and Senator Warren and I just came from Minneapolis where we were campaigning there, is unbelievable cruelty.
So, quick note. Pramila Jayapal, who is from Washington State, and then Elizabeth Warren, who is from Massachusetts, say, I just got back from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where we're campaigning. Are they doing a thing for their constituents? No. Now they're here with Abdul for a Democrat primary in Michigan. And why? To say that they have 3 things. They're running on 3 things and 3 things alone. Number 1, universal health care, but we're not going to tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're just going to make it happen. We're just going to wave a magic wand and then presto, it's just going to... Everyone's going to have a doctor. I mean, hey, apparently we're importing tens of thousands of doctors and engineers and scientists. So maybe that could, maybe that's the move, I guess. Your doctor can be an H-1B visa from Pakistan or one of the migrants from Morocco. Yeah. Anywho. So she says, we're campaigning for Abdul al-Sayed. The second tenet is they're running on universal health care. Number 2, just abolishing all immigration and customs enforcement, period. All of it. Here illegally, amnesty, instantly, done.
It's a militia that's been unleashed onto the streets of the United States, killing U.S. citizens like Renee Good and Alex Preddy.
Again, they're going to keep trying to bring up that, again, Renee Good, who tried to drive over a law enforcement official, and then Alex Preddy, who tried to intervene in an arrest. By the way, didn't you notice that remember the whole Maine kerfluffle and the Houston kerfluffle, in which there were 2 deaths? Why aren't they bringing up those names? After all, they tweet things like, whatever his name is, never forget. And then the name disappears. Why does it disappear? Because as we get more footage, it turns out that a lot of these individuals who are illegal immigrants, who may or may not have meth in their vehicles and may or may not be participating in human trafficking and may or not be, again, charged and given orders of removal on everything from domestic abuse to rape to child trafficking to drug trafficking to wire fraud to federal benefit fraud. Well, that's not, you probably shouldn't run on that, especially since the generic ballot's not looking too good.
People who have been here without committing a single crime, like Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in Texas and Johan Christian Guerrero in Biddeford, Maine.
So when she brings these 2 names up here, most of the time you don't actually see Democrats running this. This is the reason I brought those up. Most of the Democrats don't. Pramila does. She was immediately fact-checked by a member of the DNC who said, actually, hate to tell you this, but both of those individuals have actually committed crimes here in the United States.
We have to stop that. But Abdul's opponent, when given the chance in the House of Representatives, voted to thank ICE.
Oh, no. Voted to thank ICE. Oh my, and again, this is that voted to thank ICE. Oh my God. They hung an American flag up. They set fireworks on the 4th of July. Do you know how triggering that is?
To laud ICE. ICE should not exist as it does. It needs to be disbanded. We can do immigration enforcement in a different way. And Abdul is the only.
By the way, they also have no example for what they want to be as a better form of immigration enforcement. None. Nothing at all. And again, by the way, it should also be pointed out that this is not Pramila Jayapal's first rodeo on this when it comes to the individuals who would have, in fact, been slaughtered by illegal immigrants who should not have been here in the first place, who should not have been doing anything in the first place. Representative Pramila Jayapal, in a hearing in which the parents of children who were killed by illegal immigrants are present at the hearing. What does Pramila Jayapal do? She's like, this meeting is a waste of time. Screw these. It is so disgusting and wild that right here, right now, this is the move they're going with. Here you go.
Unfortunately, this hearing is, it's the 4th time in this committee that we've had a hearing on sanctuary cities. The 4th time.
Because the individuals that are in sanctuary cities just so happen to commit very violent murders and crimes. Again, you have J.B. Pritzker, you have Tim Walz, who are pardoning and releasing individuals out of custody in prisons and jails so that ICE can't come and pick them up and deport them. So they're just running around on the loose in Minnesota and in Illinois.
And there's many other things that we could be doing other than this.
Many other things that we could be doing. Again, they don't actually have any kind of an example for that. But again, I wanted to bring up, and I'll get to some of the other idiots on this side here in a minute. The Trump administration is actually doing a couple of things here that are very, very deeply important. So while you have, Delia Ramirez saying that ICE is in our streets, our courthouses, and now our airports, it's making us less safe. By the way, the number of active threat incidents in locations that ICE is active in, for example, instances of murder and theft, they plummet. They go down wildly. Immigration Customs Enforcement, first of all, is seeking a nearly $500,000 fine against an immigration lawyer. So one of these left-wing immigration lawyers, what did he do? He filed a bunch of fake asylum claims. So attorney Suraj Raj Singh, I know, I'm also surprised, filed over 118 fraudulent documents for his clients. What does that mean? It means you had individuals who came into the United States and they're here illegally. And they are here illegally and they really have a pretty problematic past and they've done some really bad things. So their immigration lawyer comes forward and says, I'll just say that, you're seeking asylum from Boogity Boo Land and you're a political revolutionary who just wanted freedom and peace and love and unicorns. And the Department of Homeland Security said, yeah, no. So that lawsuit, there's a huge amount of just judicial chaos in the United States right now. Now, again, I want to talk about something that the Trump administration has been doing that's pretty effective, at least so far, that there's no federal judge trying to intervene here. The Ninth Circuit Court has now attempted to intervene and reject Immigration Customs Enforcement's detention policy. So this is the fifth appellate court that has attempted to rule that the Trump administration doesn't have the ability, in this case through California, Arizona, Nevada, and Washington state, to detain individuals who are illegal in the United States. And the argument that the judge made is that aliens present without admission who are apprehended in the interior are not subject to mandatory detention. Like they just get to be here forever, infinitum ad nauseum. And from what I've received information of so far from the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice, this may be the straw that breaks the camel's back, by which I mean this may be the very first time in the United States that the Trump administration is actively planning on ignoring a federal judicial decision. Like you need to release all of these people out into the United States. And the Department of Homeland Security is now considering, what if we just don't? Because we've played by this rule up until this point. And maybe just not playing by these rules until the Supreme Court decides to weigh in. Because so far, when the Supreme Court has weighed in, there's a Supreme Court victory for the Trump administration, again, regarding temporary protected status. So again, as you may recall, in Supreme Court's late June Mullen versus Doe decision, which barred any kind of judicial review in which every single person here who has temporary protected status, whose temporary protected status granted by one president and then announced expired by another president, like each one doesn't get a magical judicial review of their temporary protected status. Now, the First Circuit has cleared a path for terminations. So July 29th, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit ruled that, you don't just get to block the Trump administration because you feel like it if you are a person from South Sudan or Haiti or Ethiopia whose temporary protected status has been ended. Now, this is really, really outraged. For example, Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, who said, well, actually, we need people to clean hotels and pick crops and mow lawns. And Haitians are just really, really important for that. This was on I believe, a CBS interview.
Sir, an elephant in the room, if you will, is that you are a sitting GOP Republican governor. And typically, members of your party do not disagree with President Trump on many issues, but especially on immigration. Why do you feel so strongly about this?
I think history tells us that this country was built with immigrants.
No other questions about the values, about the process in which these individuals come here. No actual, it's built by immigrants. All immigrants are the same. Always this. It doesn't matter whether it is a 22-year-old man from Haiti or whether it is an elderly 85-year-old woman from Poland. They're exactly the same. It's all they're equal. No, Radio Crew will send you to the commercial. We'll let Mike DeWine here give it his rootinest tootness in the meantime on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
My family came here in the 1840s, escaping the famine in Ireland.
Okay. And by the way, to be clear, those individuals who came from Ireland adhered to U.S. law. And specifically, as far as the Midwestern Irish, because the New York Irish get like a lot of the coverage when it comes to the Irish immigration to the United States. Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, and Ohio were also hubs for Irish immigration. And the assimilation into United States culture was definitive and aggressive. There are stories. You can find these in old newspapers. I've searched through them myself. The Henry County Historical Society in Indiana, where I also have a small work published of no consequence. That's one of the reasons why I was there. Had a newspaper article from 1879 in which Irish immigrants in Indiana were self-policing other Irish immigrants. Why? Because they weren't acting American enough and they were embarrassing the Irish community here in eastern central Indiana, actually around Shelbyville. If you're going to cite history tells us, read. This moralization nonsense, like from the Cato Institute, which we're going to get to in a second, that's not endearing you to the American people. And by the way, even if that was correct, that the Irish didn't assimilate, just because someone else may not have assimilated does not mean that there is now a blank check, free pass, get out of jail free card for everyone else to bring the country that they are running from into the country they're running to.
And my great-great-grandfather came to Yellow Springs and worked on the railroad, building the railroad at the time. There's always been a blend of people who are native to Ohio, who have been here for generations, but also people who come in. I think that this is a great opportunity, frankly, for President Trump. He has done a phenomenal job. His administration has done a phenomenal job in taking care of a huge problem. That problem was the southern border. The southern border is virtually now sealed. It's what we wanted. It's what people expected him to do and what he's been able to do.
There is a deep flaw with this. The idea, and by the way, this is, it's been called this before. It's one of the things, by the way, that Vice President J.D. Vance gets dead on correct. It's a very elitist attitude in the ivory towers and the wealthy suburbs idea of republicanism. That, well, I mean, of course, we're thinking he shut the southern border and thinking that the only problem was that it was illegal immigrants from Mexico who were coming across the border in big sombreros and ponchos holding maracas. That was what everyone was mad about. No, illegal immigration and temporary protected status and the open migration policies of the Obama administration, well, really the Bush administration before that as well. Heck, the George H.W. Bush issues inviting into the United States came from all around the world, from first, second, and third world countries where there was deep unrest. The idea is if you just give people freedom and opportunity and money, then like presto, they'll turn into wonderful, amazing. That's not how it works. Wealth and opportunity does not make the man. I had very poor, very disadvantaged students who didn't have many opportunities at all and made something phenomenal out of themselves. And I had students who were extremely wealthy, who came from wonderful backgrounds, who were given every opportunity and turned out to be hot garbage. Opportunity, money, and education are not standards of what makes a man excellent. Radio Crew, welcome back from your commercial break. Now, the last individual here that I want to point out, because there's another group along this same line, the libertarians. So David Beer over at the Cato Institute, the Migration Policy Institute, which is this organization that believes that, well, we really need to let in a bunch of cheap labor because think of all the cotton they can pick. And I'm really not joking. Only substitute cotton for tomatoes. And that's pretty much it. The Migration Policy Institute said yesterday, again, the timing is incredible, right before the Spanish invasion today. New MPI estimates, 15.8 million unauthorized immigrants, illegals, people who couldn't follow the rules, lived in the U.S. as of mid-2024, up roughly 11 million throughout the 2010s. And so the Cato Institute, the libertarians say, The higher the number, the worse an idea of mass deportation becomes, more costly and invasive to our freedoms. I mean, I hope they pick you cotton. I hope you find enough people, because that's so economically wonderful. Now, again, I told you the Trump administration has actually done something pretty stellar, and I would be very remiss if, while the radio crew is still with us, especially with my home audience, the very first radio station that this show's on in Indianapolis, 93 WIBC, the president has announced an initiative today that is getting next to no coverage called Freedom Haulers Initiative. The point of this initiative is to, as illegal immigrants and H-1B visas and other visa holders, work visas, are coming into the United States, mainly from India, from the stands, from Central and South America, from Africa, who come into the country and then are hired by these often fraudulent shell companies. This is especially a problem in Indiana, in Pennsylvania, in California, in New York. And then these semi-drivers kill individuals on the roads because they are drunk, they are high, they don't speak English, they can't follow road signs, they have no idea how actual American travel roadway etiquette works. They're plowing through the backs of individuals, they're killing people, all kinds of people all over the country. And so as we remove those individuals, and ICE and Homeland Security and the Department of Transportation are taking my advice, I am so thrilled. Sometimes when I'm right about things, I get rather smug and make a joke about getting the jar and putting another coin in. I begged the DOT, I begged Tom Homan, I begged Attorney General Todd Rokita in Indiana, please, 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 please do all that you can to, in Indiana, start putting up checkpoints at the way stations to get illegal immigrant commercial driver's license individuals off of the road. And the federal government's been stepping that up. But again, the Freedom Hauler Initiative is, again, one of the greatest things that I've seen. Here's the president announcing this today.
Last week, I objected to the Democrats' attempt.
Not Eric Schmidt. We'll get to him in a second. Here you go.
Thank you all for being here as we take action to get illegal alien truck drivers off the American roadways. We're doing a very strong movement, and we have had such support for this, and replace them with proud American veterans. And it's about time.
There was only one other time that I have ever actually done this, and that was when Trump is repealing the chicken tax. I don't do this very much, but I just want to make this clear. If you launch a federal initiative, again, if I'm going to be paying tax money here in the United States, if that's what I'm going to do, for initiatives that the federal government is going to take part in, and you are going to use this while removing illegal immigrants from the country who are part of the trucking industry that has killed people in counties right next to where I am. Men, women, individuals who are white, black, brown, who come from various backgrounds, immigrants to this country, those of alternative cultures like the Amish who have been slaughtered by this illegal immigrant. And then in solving that, you also put forward an initiative to hire and train veterans. That is excellent work, Mr. President. That is phenomenal. That is amazing. Like the Trump accounts, that is exactly what I voted for, and many other Americans have. I do not often pull down a Trump hat and put it on during the show. Again, the only other time I have ever done this was when he repealed the chicken tax EPA standards that meant that Tony couldn't have a Toyota Hilux, and now I can. This is the other thing. Absolutely. Thank you, President Donald Trump. Over the last 2 years, and I want to give all of the credit to producer Jen for compiling this information. In Hendricks County, Indiana, 1 dead. Driver, Sukhdeep Singh, National of India. February 3rd, 2026, 4 dead. Driver, Behzan Bishkiv, National of Kyrgyzstan. 2 dead in November 24 of 2025. 2 dead, William Carter and Jennifer Lower Carter. Driver, Rajinder Kumar of India. That's in Dutchess County, Oregon. San Bernardino, California. St. Lucie County, Interstate 80, Wyoming. Case after case after case of this plaguing Americans. And while you're solving it, you also put up an effort to house and put veterans to work if they want the opportunity. You guys don't understand in politics, that doesn't happen. normally the trends on Twitter, oh, we should have veterans as the security officers for schools that are concerned about shootings. And then nothing ever comes. It just kind of fades into, it's just kind of like
erased from existence.
To see the president of the United States actually moving forward to solve this, phenomenal. Thank you very much, President Trump. Now, again, a lot of the rest of the DC circuit and the chaos that's currently going right here, right now, involves the Attorney General, the acting Attorney General of the United States, Todd Blanche, because the president wants to see him brought forward and confirmed through the Senate. The Senate, who, if they choose to go to recess in early August, around the 8th, they won't really go to a real recess. No. The real recess would allow President Trump to just appoint Todd Blanche to be the Attorney General of the United States. If the Senate doesn't want to work, the president will just appoint them. So instead, they're doing this kind of sort of off and on midnight shift swap, fire watch Senate move through to keep the president from appointing individuals. And there is some GOP resistance to Todd Blanche. Now, again, Todd Blanche is formerly the president's lawyer and has also been one of the most effective acting attorney generals that I've seen in years. Pam Bondi, she would get up in front of the country and she would do very podium Barbie kind of stuff. And she wasn't that great. Would say she was going to do things, never did them. Todd Blanche is a very under-promise and over-deliver kind of acting AG. Radio crew, we're going to continue on the live stream. There's just way too much news to end the show right here. See you over there. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Sorry, I have to sign out the radio crew, and on my screen I've got the bumper music fading in that you guys don't hear. A couple of things behind the scene that always keep me very, very nervous. So according to the Associated Press today, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, may move forward with pulling Todd Blanche's nomination for Attorney General, looking to avoid concessions to hold out Republicans. So here's the case. You have a couple of very, very grumpy Republicans in the Senate who are upset that they've lost primaries, that they're not popular with the party. They're very just grumpy in general that Trump doesn't like them. And they've said, well, we'll let Todd Blanche through, but if you give us a bunch of concessions. And you've had John Cornyn from Texas, again, who's very upset that the Texans chose Ken Paxton over him. After he had all the opportunity in the world, he just kind of sat there and complained. And then you have Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. It turned into this huge mess. And so President Trump said, well, maybe I'll pull Todd Blanche for a moment and then just plop him right back in for a nomination in January, like after the midterms. We'll just put him back in later. Do a little of the old musical chairs, hokey pokey. You put the Todd Blanche in, you put the Todd Blanche out. You put the Todd Blanche in, and that makes Cornyn pout, So Tom Tillis, North Carolina, he says the president's getting really bad advice. And I'll explain what that's about in a second. But anyway, here's Tom Tillis of North Carolina, one of the grumpier ones.
My reaction is the president's getting bad advice. He should listen to Blanche and others who think if it's dead, it should be rendered completely dead.
What do you mean he's getting bad advice? I mean, this is the president making a decision.
To not do what Blanche said they were going to do. Whoever that person is giving the president bad advice. The only reason why we would move forward with this language is because that same advisor wants to bring it back to life at some point.
I'm saying the advisors, but it's the president.
You can draw that conclusion, Manu, and I can draw one that's got my eyes on the target.
All right. So what is all of this about? Why in the world? What is Tom Tillis talking about? What is John Cornyn upset about? He's also upset. We'll play his clip here. John Cornyn's also upset about the whole Blanche and Trump situation.
Providing additional documentation. They don't want to change the existing documentation, but we're asking them to confirm his sworn testimony at the hearing about the scope of the release and what it covers and what it doesn't cover.
So what are they mad about? Because they're like, I'm demanding meetings and all of this written stuff. So there was this $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund proposed by the Department of Justice to compensate victims of government overreach, alongside some various immunity provisions, like those who would receive pardons wouldn't have to pay taxes on, or those who had received the reparations wouldn't have to then turn around and pay taxes on it, that kind of stuff. And then the measure was brought forward and then it died. And then the president of the United States said, all right, no problem. And then Todd Blanche went before the committee and they're like, hey, are you going to do this anti-weaponization fund? And Blanche said, No? And everyone was shocked because you're really not supposed to do that in committee. Normally when you go to committee and they ask you a question, you're supposed to get up and do an interpretive dance, maybe do choreography from White Christmas. And then you dance around the question, you don't answer it, you go on 3 rabbit trails, 4 ADHD pit stops, you tell us a nice, lovely story that you saw on Facebook, and you call it a day. Blanche just looked straight at the Republican and Democrat senators who were expecting him to, as Trump's former personal lawyer, and defend this anti-weaponization fund. He said, no, it's not popular, we don't need to do it, fine. Okay, there's other things that need doing right now than getting hung up on every little thing. Okay, we won't do it. And Cornyn and Tillis are like, well, we need you to sign me a very sweet yearbook letter. We need you to write this, I pinky promise that we will never, ever do anything here, there, and the other. And Blanche and the president and others are like, no, we're not doing, you don't do that in politics. You don't write like little promises, because as soon as you write some kind of a letter of pinky promises to do or not to do something, then you are now beholden to that individual. They have power over you. There's political dynamics. Let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. It's one of the reasons why when you see on media, a lot of people, when they're boxed into corners, refuse to be boxed into corners on questions, because the idea is like making yourself subservient to someone who now is going to have any time that they're ready, like waving a letter in your face, is not how this is supposed to work. The Senate is supposed to be an accountability measure and a confirmation measure for the executive branch. If the House and the Senate want to pull back power from the DOJ or any state agency, they can do so at any time. Believe me, I would be the first to line up and pat Tom Tillis on the back. Yes, even I. Tom Tillis, not enjoyer Tony Kinnett. I would be happy to pat John Cornyn on the back if I didn't think it would knock him over to the ground, the frail old man, if they made the decision to put forward a bill and pass it that withdrew power from the administrative state, no matter what president. But they're not doing that. They're not doing that. No, they just want to complain because when a guy that they like is in power, they want all of the administrative power possible. So this kind of a hokey pokey is really, really, really silly. So again, we'll keep charge on this. Now, another DOJ bit of news for the day. The DOJ has announced charges against 12 additional defendants in alleged fraud schemes targeting taxpayer-funded programs across the Southeast, involving more than $90 million in intended losses. Now, guys, my friends, my pals, my buddies, those of you over here on the live stream side of things, let's be real here for a second. We were told, promised, I'm talking Scouts Honor, I'm talking Pinky Promise. At one point, Katniss Everdeen did the whistle thing. All right, we've done all of the whole promises that there was no fraud. And if there was fraud, it was so rare. We're talking that a French restaurant serving tartare could not make it that rare. All right? So rare fraud was in this country. And that's why we just needed to keep shoving money in. We talked to the Kentucky auditor, Allison Ball, yesterday. Jefferson County Public Schools in Louisville, give us more money. Sure, we're all of this money in debt. Sure, we're not providing any results. Give us more money. Minnesota sued the Trump administration for not giving them more money, even though all of the fraud was happening. Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania sues the Trump administration over not giving them money for not complying with federal law. Same thing with Mickey Sherrill in New Jersey, who's now withholding certain things from the Trump administration, even though there's being fraud actively committed in New Jersey. And here we have yet another case. The DOJ, 12 additional defendants here. I wasn't surprised. You weren't surprised. And yet, here we are. Here's the clip from this today.
The DOJ is announcing today that since the 4th of July, our southeastern U.S. attorney's offices have charged 12 additional defendants with defrauding taxpayer-funded programs. These cases reach over $90 million in intended losses. And you'll hear more about those from our U.S. attorney's offices in a minute. One scheme targeted food stamp benefits in the Southern District of Florida. On July 8th, 4 defendants were charged for concocting a scheme to convince food stamp recipients to sell their federal benefits at a discounted rate in exchange for cash. The scheme caused nearly $20 million in fraudulent EBT transactions at a quick stop convenience store in Miami. 2 of the co-conspirators are foreign nationals.
Oh, there's a surprise.
And 1 even has a pending final order of removal from the United States.
What? What? I'm shocked. Why? How could that be? I was told. Cato assured me. The left assured me that these are all wonderful. The backbone of America. Mike DeWine told me he's got an Irish great-great-grandpa. How could this be?
And as the allegations allege, he is charged with defrauding the American taxpayer. As of today, in that case, 3 of the 4 defendants have been arrested. Most recently, one of the defendants was arrested just 4 days ago when he landed in the United States on a flight from Jordan. The charges we're announcing today...
A flight from Jordan, you say? Wow. I can't believe it.
They also include a fraud scheme targeting a program meant to educate our children.
No, another education fraud scheme? Wow.
And I can't overemphasize that these are not victimless crimes.
Correct, because again, and this is an argument that I've made to those over on the left, for example, that I am paying money into federal benefits. Many out there on the left say they want strong federal benefits programs because there are all these people that are being left and they're falling through the cracks. And I've said, okay, if I'm going to pay federal money, if we're going to make some compromises here, and I'm going to fund Medicaid and Medicare, which I think are bloated and awful and terrible programs, but if that's going to be the case, then I want American citizens who need Medicare and Medicaid, not American citizens who think it'd be kind of cool to have Medicare and Medicaid. No, Americans who need Medicare and Medicaid, veterans at the VA getting treatment. I want those people to be well taken care of with that money. I don't want it going to anyone can come grab out of the bucket child care program money in Colorado or New York or in the Southeast or over in California or up in Minnesota. I want it to go to Americans. If they are legal immigrants, that is again, if they are American citizens, they should get the money. And then again, there should be difficult to get the money. It shouldn't be so easy, just, hey, grab this and then buy whatever you want with it. Like the SNAP program has become, for example. Absolutely not. Now, I don't normally do this, but I thought it would be kind of useful. There are 2 things that I wasn't able to hit regarding the Todd Blanche situation. And given there's a friend of the show, a good friend from Indiana, his name's Brad, and he threw kind of a question. He said, hey, didn't conservative media ignore the IRS $1.776 billion reparation settlement thing when it was first presented? A lot of conservative media did. Yep. This show did not. The day that it was announced on this show, I believe my words were, this seems kind of silly and unnecessary and kind of a momentum killer. And the day that Todd Blanche said, nah, I thought I praised it pretty consistently here on the show. I don't know if I can answer for the rest of quote unquote conservative media. We don't actually have meetings every day and kind of go into those particular details. But I hope that answers the question. I can only answer for me, but at least me over at the Daily Signal side of things, we didn't ignore it. Because I try not to change my standards from day to day. Also on the John Cornyn thing, I would like to remind everyone, for this grumpy guy who's really upset about Todd Blanche and politicizing the DOJ, that John Cornyn did just so happen, he just so happened to be advocating for Merrick Garland as Attorney General because he said Merrick Garland's going to depoliticize the DOJ.
This morning, I had a very good conversation with Judge Merrick Garland, who President Biden has nominated for Attorney General. Judge Garland's extensive legal experience makes him well suited to lead the Department of Justice, and I appreciated his commitment to keep politics out of the Justice Department. That is my number 1 criterion for who should be the next head of the Department of Justice as Attorney General. And I think both sides should support a depoliticized Justice Department, and that's what I hope Judge Garland, once confirmed, will deliver.
He didn't. He did not. Narrator, he did not, in fact, deliver that. And here's the truth of the matter. This is something that I've been meaning to say on the show for a while. I know it's been a very glasses on and off kind of night. The picture-perfect world that a lot of the kind of technocrats envision, where can't we just all go back to the way things were? No. When I said earlier that Donald Trump is the coroner, and I am by no means the first pundit to call him that at all, he was declaring that the era of telling you that everything is fine when it's not, telling you that nothing is corrupt when it is, telling you that there's no fraud when it's prevalent, that's kind of system, that behavior, that action, that when Trump came up and said it's dead, when Hillary would say Donald Trump gets a bunch of benefits, and he says, well, yeah, of course I do, and so do all of her donors, and she never changed it while she was senator. That was a cornerstone moment in the 2016 election. That wasn't saying that Donald Trump was perfect or a great man or a good man or the hero that we need, nothing like that. But when he pronounced that thing dead, that American politics system that was nice on the outside, but dead and moldy and rotten on the inside, the answer is not that you just now need a bunch of good men to kind of pretend again. No, the rot has to be scooped out, and it is going to be messy. And if the rot is not scooped out, now that people have recognized the rot that came through the Anthony Fauci stuff, the Joe Biden stuff, the Obama administration, the individuals who lied about the Russian collusion in order to protect Hillary and then violated the Espionage Act from Obama's administration in the transition period after the 2016 election. Now that the American people have seen that in person, now that they've seen it up close, now that that media ecosystem has been shattered, they don't trust the system anymore. And so as those problems get closer and closer and closer to them, you are seeing Americans that no longer care as much about the basic bread and butter issues, because the argument they want is they want the actual underlying problems that are right in front of their faces solved. They do. When you see an individual that comes into the country and shouts Allahu Akbar and then stabs a man in New York or torches women and children in Colorado or drives into a church in Michigan or a synagogue in Michigan or a daycare center in Michigan, you know, people aren't really as concerned about the tax rate per se as getting that solved first. Then after that's solved, we'll come back here. And that's one of the things that it's very bizarre to watch some of those over on the left claim that, oh, they're going to get, you know, Donald Trump in because he's mean or he has mean tweets or he said that Caitlin Collins looks like Dylan Mulvaney. Oh, that's so mean and terrible. When you see the fraud taking place, when you see those who are arrested, the whole vitriol that oh no, I told Donald Trump I'm not giving New Jerseyans private information to the government. Can you imagine what would happen if the federal government had New Jerseyans' social security numbers? My middle-aged blonde sister in Christ, who do you think gives people social security numbers? You think the federal government doesn't have your social security? Are you retarded? What do you mean doesn't have their private? What private information do you think that New Jersey, the state government, has that the federal government does not have? The idea you're going to be able to like pull this over the eyes of Americans like for eternity? No, I just don't see it. I just do not see it. So, and do you think that this argument is convincing the socialist left? No, I don't want this argument to convince the socialist left. This is not a convincing you kind of show. It's not. It's not. This is a breaking down the news and the analysis of the day for those of you who don't steep in the political bath water kind of a show. I have a personal belief, and sorry to get a kind of personal here at the end of the show, but I'm kind of useful here in the bonus tonus section perhaps. I have a belief deep down in my soul that there are very few people left who are undecided. There are just people that are angry enough or that care enough to actually invest in a marathon style fight. The whole sprint to the finish promises that were made, and look, there were some conservative hosts in the 2024 election that announced as soon as the day that Donald Trump got into office, things are going to change and it's going to be like, wow, presto, amazing. We're going to go in and we're going to do all this stuff. And they overpromised and then some of those things were underdelivered. Yep, I warned about that at the time. But the marathon fight of citizenship, the marathon stewardship of citizenship that the framers intended for this country is becoming more popular once again. And in all generations, with the youths, with those who are in their early and middle adult life, and those who are elderly are getting more involved. Now, on the left side of the aisle, it's a lot of the youths that are getting involved. On the right side of the aisle, it's all of the crews who seem to currently be getting involved. And that's a very, very good thing. I was asked this at a speaking event that I did probably at I think, February of this year. If I could have one thing that I want to change in the political system right now, what would I change immediately? And my very first thing is that that Indiana would liberate Illinois from Chicago. But if I had to be realistic, it was that every single precinct committee member slot in this country, every county trustee, every lowest level political position in this country would be filled. It would be filled. Because active engagement is a generational struggle. And it's something that I'm just deeply passionate about. All right, I'm going to do just a smidgen, just a quick bit for here at the end of the show. A little bit of the old mail time. Mail time. Mail time.
On the Tony Kinnett Cast.
And here is the way that you do so. So first of all, a quick shout out to Jason Hammer of Hammer and Nigel in Indianapolis. A show host who is one of the reasons that you poor people are burdened with listening to my awful voice, who said, wrong clip, take a drink, because I'm aware that some of you in the comments have a drinking game whenever we play a wrong clip. Well, I'm sorry. There were a lot of clips from Spain and things get mixed up. And sometimes we just don't know what to do. Nah, we're very transparent with you about our flaws, because the minute I tell you that I'm perfect, find another host immediately. So the mail time, you head over to the Discord. The Discord, there's a link in the description. Why the Discord instead of the YouTube chat? Because sometimes you guys get to posting a lot of messages. A lot of messages. So let's get into some of these over here in the Discord. From Nichelle, about Spain, how long until videos start coming out on the horrors committed by the invaders? I mean, we already have aired 2 clips for you of people breaking and entering, which is in fact a violent and terrible crime. People's property should be respected. It should. That's beginning. And as far as the very likely rapes and murders that are going, again, we're already seeing clashes in the streets. Like that's already occurring right here and right now. People are getting into fights out there. That'll definitely come. Some questions from yesterday on the Fauci thing that I have been meaning to get to, and I do want to make sure that we get answered here before the end of the show. From P Camp. Fauci's diary was written on a government computer and saved on a government server. It wasn't his personal diary, as kind of an offered correction. It was both. Now, I've said this jokingly before. If he has a personal diary or a memoir on government servers, then that's like not his personal. I think he probably also had a little personal diary. But no, it's still his personal diary. He's just an idiot for keeping it on government servers. That just means he worked on it during the day and stored them there. It's still his personal diary. I mean, the man was gushing about himself. Those weren't like, if I ever ordered Daniel to write my memoirs as a non-official diary, first of all, that would be horrible. Poor Daniel. And number 2, that would be kind of the difference there. So I hear what you're saying, but it's still his personal diary. Still very, very much hilarious, though. Is it possible for civil lawsuits for the actions of Dr. Fauci? No. No, that's not how that would work. Florida's preparing some state lawsuits. But when you get into bureaucrat level crimes against the American people, you get into some really sketchy territory, because the Constitution was not built, common law really wasn't built to allow individuals who are committing open, despicable crimes against their people to simply remain in power forever. And we're in an era where hyper-specific criminal charges have to be leveled and then argued in court. And it's far easier for a judge to go, I just don't want to deal with this, and dismiss it. So that's, again, Florida's got probably the best stages here. And I know that there are still some legal questions being sorted out in the could Fauci invoke the Fifth Amendment, which according to the precedent looks like he can't. But what can you charge for that? The real question isn't what can he be charged with. The real question is the Senate going to develop some cojones? Are they going to get some stones and do anything about it? And so far, the answer seems to be, maybe. Why is the IRGC so hard to eliminate in Iran? How much of their numbers, including their leadership, have been killed? Are they harder to find? Iran is big. Iran is the size of the American Midwest, in case you didn't know. It's about the size of the American Midwest. And by the way, when I say the Midwest, I don't mean the Great Plains states. I mean from Wisconsin over to Ohio. That's the Midwest. I don't even think that Pennsylvania is Allegheny. I don't really think Pennsylvania is the Midwest either. That's a very weird thing I care about for some reason. But regarding Iran, there's a lot of tunnels, and we have killed a lot of IRGC. However, there are certain targets that are more worthwhile to hit. And the IRGC is straight up using every human shield that they can right now. so that they can say, oh, Americans killed a school full of girls, while they're literally killing men, women, and children en masse. But that's part of it. There have been a lot of leadership that are killed. It's just not quite that easy. Air campaigns are not universal and super duper easy. So that side of things out of the way. From Hal, I have a question, since this does look like an invasion of some sort for European countries from Islamic people. By the way, I didn't even mention this during the show, but the reaction from a lot of the left in the Islamic world is Spain deserves this because they have territory in Africa. No, that's not the fragile Islamic take that they've always been treated poorly through history. No, absolutely not. Anywho, but anyway, I have a question, since this does look like an invasion of some sort for European countries from Islamic people. Not sure the proper term because I don't want to be politically correct, but the question is that if they're taking over the areas, what about nuclear weapons? So if the Islamic groups take over like France, do they have access to France's nuclear weapons? They do. However, there's something really, really funny about nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are not set it and forget it. Nuclear weapons have to be maintained. Like, you can't just like say, this here's our Minuteman missile, it'll be good forever. No. They do degrade pretty quickly. Now, again, if you do actually see Islamic takeover, would that be in the like United States' best interest to preemptively strike and take care of France so that it doesn't actually have access to nuclear weapons? I know a lot of people think that it's not the United States' responsibility. If you do not believe that we are the very, very, very first target for any kind of a nuclear strike, that they just bring over the nuclear device on a boat and just park it off the coast of the United States and take out a coastal city, you think they wouldn't do that? They absolutely would. And it is the United States' responsibility to do that. My answer is the United States should just stop apologizing. Teddy Rooseveltian imperialism is good. It is. And I'll never apologize for that. Nation building and like finding the good in all people is retarded. The United States is dominant, and it appears my superiority has caused some controversy. That is the correct approach. And on that, another question is like, what's your actual plan for the Middle East? I'll take the question seriously, and I will say my best interest would be to see Iran balkanized and split up into several countries. That would, and I think that the Gulf coalition should just go in and just take a region of Iran, and then there should be a Gulf occupied zone. I say the Saudis should go ahead and move in and conquer a bit of Iraq. The Kurds should establish the hold of Western Iran. Persia should be Persian again. And then you let Pakistan, Turkmenistan, and the eastern chunk of Iran all fight it out, because they will. We're talking like Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia fun of the 1990s is what's likely to come there. Now, what's my like actual personal feeling of what should happen to the Middle East? I think that Lebanon should be conquered and established as a Christian nation. That's what I believe. I think that the Lebanese government and parliament should be purged, and it should be set up as a Christian nation. And why? Because I want it to be. That's why. That's what I believe. I'm not the nation building sort of that way. When I mean conquer and as a territory, I mean like as a permanent government and like territory, a non-voting territory of the United States. If we're going to do it, then let's freaking do it. Like, and I mean conquer, not like let's voting territory, free travel around the world. No, absolutely not. What is the likelihood of Spain just ceding the territory of Ceuta to Morocco? I mean, pretty high. That's clearly what the Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez is alluding to. And that's what the left is suggesting internationally. Well, you have territory in Africa, as though Africa is some magical spiritual place that all of the natives have, as though they haven't been slaughtering each other for tens of thousands of years, just like Native Americans here in the United States. The idea that territory is somehow naturally like imbued with magical properties, no, absolutely not. There's only one promise in all of history that I believe God made regarding land, and if you don't like it, you can take it up with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Other than that, get good, scrub. Tony, why do people... Well, I'll answer two questions here. One's from Night Raider. Says, I hear that Harmeed is suing states over voter rolls. What does she actually get from a lawsuit? Well, the law actually has to rule on whether or not the federal government has cause to get the voter rolls. That's the win. If they don't get it, then it's really not a win. This is the problem with carrot style policies where, hey, I'll give you this grant if you follow the rules. Federal judges appointed by weak Republican Senates, or confirmed by weak Republican Senates, and then confirmed by wild Democrat establishment Senates like Chuck Schumer's crew, who's bragged about the activist judges. They most often rule in favor of the states getting to do whatever they want when it comes to ignoring federal policy regarding the grant approach, like with vote rolls. So if she gets it, great. I mean, we just have yet to have the right judge do the right thing. So next question here from Jacob. Tony, why do many people still call the Save America Act the SAVE Act? It seems to be intentional. It's not. The SAVE Act and the Save America Act largely have a lot of the same stuff, and it just gets kind of exhausting. My solution is I hate how bills are named, period. I hate it. Because every bill is like the Save, Do Good, and Puppies and Kittens Act of Justice and Love and Friendship, and I think it's retarded. I think it's like coming up with an email in 2024 that someone hasn't already picked, and it annoys me. So I don't think it's really intentional. I think that's just like, kind of my take on it here. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of people say it drives them nuts when people call the Save America Act the SAVE Act. I don't think that it's as intentional as maybe you think. I don't. I mean, there's a lot of bills that are just thrown through. This is why I think it should be very clear what the opposition is to a bill from the beginning. And the idea that you never want to slap right. And by the way, this is a huge thing. Like in both parties, you never slap left, you never slap right because it's bad. And then they won't work with you because they get petty. Your pettiness is not my problem. It's not. I don't care where it is. Your pettiness is not my issue. Like the fact that if I insult Tom Tillis, he's not going to work with any of the other reporters I don't care. I don't care. Tom Tillis should stop sucking. That's my proposal. I don't care if his staffer, who's 23 years old and has never ever held a real job before, gets really upset about it. Who cares? That's like I don't know. That's kind of like the internal politics on that side of things. And I know that, like, for example, our correspondent at the Daily Signal, Rebecca Downs, would, be more appreciative. Thrival asks, so when do we take Constantinople? My approach for dealing with Turkey should be that the Greeks should get half of Turkey. Constantinople should be reestablished. The Armenians should get the rest of Turkey. The Ottoman Empire sucks. And I'm sorry, but if there is look, one of my dearest friends, who is in fact Islamic, is Turkish. He's a wonderful guy. Also, the place that I got a very unfriendly scar on my left leg happens to also be in Turkey. So I don't really care for Turkey very much. I'll leave it there before I say something that I probably shouldn't. So, yeah, I know. That's kind of my side. Well, other people are saying, well, what do you think about the Pelosi Act? I mean, I still like things. I just don't like the general practice of them. Just because I criticize something doesn't mean I will mention this last thing on the voter roll question, that Scott Pressler, who's a good friend of the show, has stated that they're finding tens of thousands of non-citizens on the non-juror rolls in Philadelphia County, Pennsylvania. It's like, I've seen the list with my own eyes. Yes, tens of thousands. We'll look into it. I'm eager to see the voter roll question and the immigration question as we get closer and closer and closer to the election. Is going to get interesting. There is one final piece of news. Oh my gosh. And I forgot to tell you until this moment. Oh boy. That's right. Here at 8:29, I've got some news for you. The Main Wire has reported. Oh boy, this is so much fun. The Main Wire has reported that Troy Jackson, the replacement for Graham Plattner, like socialist boy, Troy Jackson and his longtime partner, whom he has 2 children with, they are second cousins. Yep. Troy Jackson, the Democrats, guess you had Graham Plattner, who had a whole bunch of problems. Troy Jackson, the first of many scandals, like alleged mortgage fraud, throwing a bottle at a lady. And then now, Troy Jackson and his longtime partner, who they have 2 kids with, are second cousins. So, Ilhan Troy Mar, everybody. Absolutely incredible. Just, I'm loving this election cycle. So I love it. Everyone else can be in a really bad mood about all of this. I love this election cycle. It's going to be fun because no one's going to come out to vote for the midterm election. It's going to be a low propensity election. And so all of this nonsense is just going to be really funny. And you should be along for the ride. So, hey, before we leave for the evening, one very, very, very last thing that I should mention, if you would, just for me, just for me, your dear friend Tony, who looks like all of the other white bearded pundits in their 30s, would you consider subscribing to the new Tony Kinnett Cast channel here on YouTube, at Tony Kinnett Cast? It'd mean the world to me. We've got some new content that's coming out pretty soon. Some great stuff. You can catch that interview, for example, with Allison Ball, the auditor for the Commonwealth of Kentucky from yesterday. More stuff coming soon. Until tomorrow, though, for a phenomenal Friday. This has been the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Y'all, take care.